Hey, welcome back guys to Intermediate JavaScript and jQuery programming with JSON on Ajax. My name is Kaustubh Gharge, but you can call me KG. I will be working on our first project for this Intermediate JavaScript course today. Before we begin, let's look at the session outline. So in this session, we'll be first covering the recap of the previous sessions and what we have learned thus far. Afterwards, we will work on our first project for which we will be setting up an image gallery using HTML and learning the various events which we can capture using jQuery to make changes to our image gallery. If you do not have fundamentals of JavaScript programming clear, you must take the Introduction to JavaScript course as well as HTML to understand the document object model. So thus far we have covered fundamentals of jQuery programming. We learned how we can add jQuery to our projects and how we can use the same functionalities that JavaScript provides us, but with a clean and easy code to follow. Plus, jQuery allows us to add animations and other effects to our web page, adding a bit of interactivity to the web page, thus enhancing the user experience. In this project, we're going to create a simple image gallery using HTML5, which changes the active picture in the gallery when the user moves their mouse cursor on the button. You must have seen this especially for tourism-related websites, more specifically for hotels, where they want you to showcase the details of the package and what the tourists can expect when they stay at the hotel. So that's one of the use cases. One of the other use cases you can do is you can just create a picture gallery for yourself, for your own personal pictures. All right, so moving on. Again, as a reminder, if you have not installed Visual Studio Code or any other code editor plus a web browser, you must do it. I'm currently using Google Chrome as my web browser and Visual Studio Code as my code editor. You can find the project files on my GitHub. The links we'll be using for this project are directly added through the hyperlinks. If you want, you can have a directory and store all your images instead of using links, and provide the relative path to the source attribute of the image tag. Right, so let's move over to Visual Studio Code Editor and begin coding directly. We'll get back to the slides once we're done. Alright, so I have some pre-written HTML code in order to save some time. We simply have a main div right here with a class of container, and which has a subdiv holding all the buttons, and we have an image tag. Okay, notice here we have only a single image tag which will load all of our images. I've added the 5 buttons here. These can be divs, paragraphs, tags, or any element which supports the mouse over event. The idea is when the user hovers over the load image button, so when the user hovers over the load image button, the relevant image will be loaded. Okay, so let's write some jQuery for here real quick. Let me add a script tag. All right, so what we need to do, we need to first get access to this particular image element here. So we have an ID. So what we want to do is first we want to make sure that the HTML has been loaded. So do you remember what function we use to make sure all of the HTML elements have been loaded? So it's the document.ready. Okay, so we have jQuery pass in the document. It checks if the document is ready, and within it we pass in a function. All right, so I'm just gonna check for all of the images. So we have 4 images right now with specific classes. So I'm going to select these classes. So do you remember what is how you can select classes? Right, so in the basic JavaScript we had uh, get element by class name. In jQuery, we just have to add in a period and the class name. So the first class is image1, right? And we're going to use the on method, in which we'll be listening for mouse over. Okay, so once we listen to the mouse over, we're going to run a function, and in which what we are going to do is we're going to change the attribute for this image tag. So the attribute source, we're going to change this. Okay, so right now we have a basic image that I've loaded here. So let's first quickly see what this image looks like. Let me open this up with live server. Right, so this is the basic image that we have loaded. Right now we don't have any jQuery, so we are not loading any other images. So let's quickly go back and change the attribute on the mouse over event. Okay, so I have to select the change image, right? So the way we do it is we use jQuery and the pound symbol and change image. That's the ID. And I'm going to access the attribute for this by using attribute, and in which here the attribute function takes in two parameters. One is the actual attribute and one is the value. So you can either get or set. In this case we are setting it up, so we're setting the source attribute, and in here I am just going to add a URL real quick. So let me find some URL. So I usually use Unsplash .com's images. They're free, and also they're free to use, as in the license is free. So I just use these images. I like these images. So what I would say is let's say trees, and let me open this up in a new tab and just copy over this link right here. Right, so just paste it. Now the image size is too big, so I'm just going to change it to the width to 900 pixels. Save it, and let's see if this works first. And go back, reload the page, and if I hover over the load image 2, it loads. Load 3 and load 4 won't work because we haven't written code for it. Okay, so let's quickly add for the rest of the images, so the rest of the buttons. So let's do that real quick. So I'm just going to copy paste over this code 4 times and just change the URL. Alright, so in here I'm going to do image 2, image 3 and image 4, and I'm just going to add in some new URLs. Okay, so I've added the trees already. Let me close this. Let me find a new image real quick. Let me add flowers. Alright, so I'm just going to get this image right here, go back and add a new URL. Change the width to 900 because it's too big for my screen size. Alright, close this. Close this as well. Let's add moss. Alright. Go back. Change one for the image 3. Save it. Change this to 900 again. I have image 1, I have image 2, I have image 3, image 4. This is extra. Okay, I'm just going to remove this. Make some space here. I need to add one more image for image 4. Let's say fruits on trees. All right. Let me quickly change this. So what you can do is you can use your own private gallery as well. If you have images, you can use those as well instead of adding the links. Save this. Right, so I've covered for image 4, image 3, and image 2. Let me save this and go back and see how this looks. Let me reload this. So I have image 1, image 2, image 3, and image 4. Perfect. So if you notice, whenever I hover over, the images change. Perfect. That's what we wanted. Let's go back to the slides. Alright, so we covered one of the approaches to build a image swap feature for the image gallery. Now this is not the only way we can build an image gallery. You can further add your own enhancements to this, and I encourage you to build them over this application. The purpose of this project was to get you started. Now you can build your own enhancements on top of it. An example would be instead of hovering over the 4 buttons, so we have used the mouse over, you can use the dot hover function as well. Instead of hovering over the 4 buttons, just have one button and make sure you can activate image changes on each mouse over event. Okay. The trick is to have image links in an array. So what we have in here, if you go back to the code, so we are adding the images one at a time. So instead of doing that, what you can do is you can have all the image links in an array and loop over the array one image at a time on the mouse over event. In the next level of enhancement, you can use mouse over event on the image itself. So when the user hovers over the cursor over the active image, so instead of having mouse over on the button, all you can do is you can just have a mouse over on the image itself and it will load the next image in the array. Or you can have a timer function. You learned in JavaScript course timer functions such as set interval to change the active image one at a time. So you can have yourself a screensaver. You can also use some jQuery plugins for which I have added links in the resources section for the slides. So you can use jQuery plugins, and you can also use jQuery UI to build a more advanced image gallery. Alright, so that's it with the project 1. I will see you in the next session for project 2. Take care. Bye.